Hi, this is Ashton from Guns&Gear. Today we're going to do a takedown and cleaning of a custom 1911 that we built at Guns&Gear. The first thing that you need to do while working on a firearm is take the magazine out and make sure there's nothing in the chamber. The first step to disassembling a 1911 is to remove the barrel bushing. You do this by taking a bushing wrench, pressing the recoil spring cap down, and rotating the bushing to about the 9 o'clock position. Be careful to keep your hand above the recoil spring cap. When the bushing clears the cap, the recoil spring will launch if you aren't keeping it down. Next, pull out the recoil spring cap and recoil spring. Just lift straight out. Next step is to remove the slide stop. Move the slide back so that the rear rounded slot in the slide is aligned with the rear of the slide stop. Turn the pistol over and locate the back side of the slide stop. Press from shooter's right to left and pull the slide stop out the left of the frame. The slide stop can be a little tight. Just give it a good tug when you can get your fingers under it. Next, remove the slide. Just pull the slide forward off the frame. Next, we disassemble the slide. First, remove the guide rod. We have a one-piece buffer guide rod on this pistol. Next, rotate the barrel bushing by turning counterclockwise to about the 4 o'clock position. Then pull straight out on the bushing. After the bushing is removed, drop the rear of the barrel clear of the slide and pull the barrel out of the front. Turn the slide muzzle end down with a pin punch or similar tool. Press the rear of the firing pin into the slide, then tilt the tool downward to move the firing pin to stop toward the bottom of the slide. This will hold the firing pin in so you can slide the stop downward. Be sure to keep your hand over the firing pin so that when it stops clears, the firing pin doesn't launch across the room. Next, remove the extractor by lifting it with a small tool. A small flat screwdriver or pin punch will do the trick. Next step is to disassemble the frame. Remove the grip panels using a screwdriver or Allen wrench depending on your 1911 screw types. When the scores are removed, you can punch the panels off by reaching into the magazine well and pushing outward. Flip the frame and repeat on the other side. Our next step is to remove the magazine cache. This is done more easily by using a brass hammer or plastic block. Put the frame on the block or hammer. Insert a small screwdriver into the screw on the right side of the frame. Press down lightly on the frame so the stop comes out of the right side of the frame about 1/16 of an inch. Then turn the screw counterclockwise. The stop will pop right out. Next, we're going to remove the mainspring housing. Put a roll of tape on the bench with the mainspring housing pin line above it. With a pin punch and small hammer, tap the pin until it drops out of the bottom. Remove the pin punch. Slide the mainspring housing out of the bottom of the frame. The next step requires you to be cautious with the plunger springs and plungers. Make sure those don't launch on you. Just pull up on the thumb safety and keep your hand behind the plunger tube so you don't lose the springs and plungers. Then pull out the springs and plungers. Now we remove the sear pin and hammer pin. These push out easily from the right to left. Just gently push them with a pin punch until they clear the frame, and pull them out the other side with your fingers. Next, pull the hammer and sear spring out the back of the frame. Turn the frame so that the muzzle end is pointed up. The disconnector will fall out. Push back on the trigger until it can be pulled out. If the sear is not dropped yet, tap the bottom of the grip on the bench gently and it will fall free. Our 1911 is now disassembled. We didn't remove a few parts from the frame. The ejector and plunger tube are stacked on, and you just have to make sure they are good and tight. This is the ejector, and this is the plunger tube. Also, we didn't remove the grip screw bushings. If they're loose, tighten them down with a screwdriver. The next part is the grip safety. Right behind that is the thumb safety. Next, you have the hammer and the hammer strut. These are held together by the hammer strut pin. This is the disconnector, and left of that is the sear. Below that is the hammer pin, the sear pin, and the mainspring housing pin. The funny looking spring below that is the sear spring. Make sure not to bend this because this controls the reliability and the pull weight. Above and left is the mainspring housing. In the top of that is the mainspring cap, and inside is the mainspring. The mainspring is where hammer force comes from. It's held together by the mainspring cap pin. Right beneath is the plunger spring. On either end of that is the slide stop plunger and the thumb safety plunger. Next is the slide stop. Above and left is the magazine release. It has a spring inside, and the screw part is the magazine release lock. Next up to the plate is the good old trigger. This trigger has an adjustment screw to tune trigger behavior. The holes in the trigger are for lightening the trigger, but really are more often used for looks. Below that's the grips and the grip screws. The upper is made up of the slide. This one is stripped except for the sights. This pistol is very accurate, so we aren't going to remove the sights. Behind the slide is the firing pin stop. Below that is the firing pin. This one is titanium. Beneath that is the firing pin spring. Next is the extractor. The front of the extractor has a little claw on it that pulls out the case of a round when fired or ejected by racking the slide. Forward of that is the barrel bushing. This one has a brass insert that keeps the barrel tight and improves accuracy. Below that is the spring cap for the recoil spring. Below that is a one-piece guide that helps reduce felt recoil. Below that is the barrel. On the back is the barrel link and the barrel link pin. Those are all the parts for a 1911. The 1911 is actually pretty simple to work on. These are the only tools that I use in this video.